we are doing Fear Street R.L. Stein's Lights Out. So our main character is Holly Flynn. She's leaving Fear Street for the summer, which is probably her best bet, but little does she know. She's gonna work for her Uncle Bill's camp. But see, Uncle Bill's camp is called Camp Nightwing. It has had 3 years of tragedy. The first year it was burnt down by electricity. Year 2, it was like a measles outbreak and it flooded. And then year 3, which would have been last year, according to the timeline in this book, a kid was brutally killed in a boating accident. So this is like a make or break year for Uncle Bill. So he gets his niece Holly, who is our main character, to volunteer at the camp. And then her good friend Thea also volunteers. But see, Thea only came to volunteer at the camp because she's thirsty for another counselor named John Hardesty. And Holly's not like one of them. She ain't no outdoor type bitch. So long story short, they're walking through the camp. It's just them three right now. And then they hear somebody scream, "Why the whole supply closet collapsed on Uncle Bill?" Thea and Holly run over to him, and he's like, "This shit has never been this loose before." And they find a red feather. And they find the red feather, and the hole where one of the screws should have been, but the screw was missing. So they just think, this camp has been through a lot of shit. The shit raggedy. So they're like, okay, let's move on. So after she done with her clumsy ass Uncle Bill, she goes over and she sees a new counselor coming in, and it's Jerry Marcus. Jerry and Holly go way back because before Holly moved to Shadyside Fear Street, her and Jerry were best friends. But when Jerry was 15, she was fucking with a grown adult in his 20s, a creep. And Jerry wanted Holly to keep it a secret. Long story short, Holly couldn't hold water. And Jerry's parents found out, and of course, they forbid her from seeing an adult. Because, girl, you only 15. What you doing thotting and bopping? So Jerry and Holly, old best friends, they got old beef. But Jerry's coming in with another girl whose name is Deborah. And Deborah is like Team Jerry, even though she doesn't know Holly. So Deborah and Jerry, they're like, we gonna make this bitch life a hell this summer. So Holly's like, oh, I don't got time for this. So as Holly's going back to her cabin, she meets another counselor named Mick. There's a whole bunch of counselors. And he's handsome as hell. But Holly's like, you know what? Boys, I'm swearing off boys this summer. Easier said than done. So as Holly going into her cabin, a bat swings out and flies at her. She starts screaming. Next thing you know, girl, Deborah and Jerry walk in and they're looking at her like, this lame ass bitch. Here we go with this childish ass hoe. Just giving them any reason to hate her. So later that night at the camp bonfire, Uncle Bill's reading the rules and he's pretty much saying, camp counselors cannot fuck with each other. He doesn't say it that way, but I'm summarizing this because this shit gets long. While he's reading these rules out, Holly and Mick, yes, Miss Holly, I'm going to swear off boys this summer, is pretty much flirting with Mick. So this is like a horror version of The Summer I Turned Pretty type shit. So while Holly and Mick is caking it up on one side of the bonfire, Deborah and Jerry looking at her like, this hoe. Next thing you know, this crazy-ass boy in a hockey mask come running out of the woods. And it's another camp counselor who's arriving named Kit. And following behind Kit, holding all the luggage, is this boy named Sandy. And Sandy, even though he got all this luggage, he got like a polo shirt, Porsche sunglasses, like, he got money. Meanwhile, you got John Hardesty, the other camp counselor, he's just chilling in the back watching everybody, the spectacle unfold. So the next morning, Holly's down by the lake, just going down for a walk. She sees Sandy, and he's like, hey, watch out for the lake because there's leeches. And remember, this is Holly's first time at camp. She thanks Sandy, and then she continues walking, and on her walk down the trail, she meets Mick. They go walking a little bit further down, and they see the canoes that they're going to be using throughout the summer, but they're all sunken with holes in them. And within one of the holes, she finds a red feather. Does Holly find this weird? Absolutely. But she looks at her clock, and she's like, damn, there's no time for us to investigate this further because the campers are arriving like 10 minutes ago. So Holly's running back to her camp because she's looking at her watch, and she's like, damn, I'm late. The campers are arriving. So she arrives back at her cabin, and she sees that Debbie and Jerry are already there doing her job, and she's like, damn, these bitches already want a reason to hate me, so watch me give it to them. And it's like, bitch, you did, because you're late, and they had to do your job when y'all a team. So they're welcoming in the young campers. And pretty much Deborah, she chews this bitch out in front of all the camp counselors and the campers. So then they get into their cabins, right? And then two of the girls fall through their bunk beds. Jerry and Uncle Bill walks in. As they go to investigate the bed area further, they find the broken slat with the red feather. Holly goes to try to tell her uncle that, hey, every time something bad happens, there's a red feather. I think it's some type of sabotage going on. You need to check this out. He's too busy worrying about a back order. He's on the phone when she goes into his cabin. So he's pretty much like, sweetie, niece, I don't got time for this shit. boy, you better make time. So, bitch, after Holly's leaving her uncle's cabin defeated, after trying to warn him about the casualties that's been happening and the coincidences within them, Debbie and Jerry come up and she's like, yeah, bitch, you ain't gonna get no special treatment just because your uncle owns this campground. Things get crazier that night in the dinner hall when Kit throws a fake snake on the table, and you know the campers who don't know real from fake, they're jumping, and so did Holly, because we are in nature and shit like this does randomly happen. And since Holly jumped too, just along with the kids who were scared of the fake snake, Debbie starts chewing her out again, telling her, like, you need to be an example and pretty much stop acting like one of the campers. Once again, humiliating her in front of all the crew and the staff in the camp. Thea tells Holly, girl, meet me down by the lake later on tonight. So that night down by the lake, Thea pretty much tells Holly that Jerry and Deborah are pretty much tight and they're in cahoots to bring her hell. And it's like, as if she couldn't realize that by the way they were treating her. But also, Jerry and Mick had a thing last summer too. So you flirting with him at the campfire after you also in y'all past when y'all lived in the other town, ruining her relationship even though she was a minor with an adult. Bitch, you cruising for a bruising is what she's saying. But Thea's like, now that I gave you all the tea, girl, I need you to leave because, honey, I am meeting John Hardesty there and we gonna do the beat skeet and boogie under the moonlight. Holly's like, let me leave so you can get your rocks rocked. As Holly's walking back, she runs into Mick. And her and Mick begins to talk, and Holly's like, why didn't you tell me that you and Jerry had something together? Y'all know the history me and this bitch got. But Mick is like, why can't we just spend more time together? And she's like, no, I don't need no more trouble. This was already coming towards me. So then Mick grabs her ass up on some like Chris Brown shit. She yanks herself free, and then she goes to walk back to her cabin because she's like, bitch, this is too much under the moonlight. As she's entering her cabin, she sees somebody sneaking out the back. However, before she could really investigate it, Sandy, the other camp counselor, they get to start talking, and she realizes, oh, he's actually a nice-ass guy. After they're done talking, she gets into her bed, and as she's sleeping, she feels something crawls up her leg. Long story short, now it's a real snake. This bitch screams, wakes up the whole cabin, got everybody panicking, and Debbie's like, here this useless-ass bitch goes again, and cusses her out in front of the camp and the counselors and the campers again. Holly tries to tell Uncle Bill again, but he's still in his own world, not listening. And it's like, that's how the last 3 years ended up fucked up, Uncle Bill. So Holly's like, if you ain't gonna listen to me, it's all my own to save this fucking camp. That afternoon at the baseball game, now Holly's looking at everyone. She's like, everyone's a suspect. Something's going on here. So she's watching them all, and Mick sees her watching him. And he's like, oh, she wants me. So he tells her to meet him down by the lake tonight. And I'm like, bitch, didn't he just rough you up, ho? But you know, with R.L. Stein, so it doesn't gotta make sense that time. And what happens when she does go to meet him? He tries to put the moves on her and kisses her, but she moves away and she's like, no. But guess who's spying in the bushes? Jerry. And Jerry confronts Holly about trying to steal Mick away. She's like, bitch, you still being messy, trying to ruin my relationship. You know, she goes after the girl instead of going after the boy. The next day, Holly meets up with Sandy. She tells him the conspiracy of all the red feathers she found when casualties happen. And he somewhat believes her, but not really. He's like, okay, let me just listen to this bitch vent. And he tells her, well, all of that stuff you don't have to worry about because we're going to be leading a hike next week. So you don't have to worry about being around the mean girls. They hug it out. As Holly's going back to her cabin, she runs into Kit, and Kit confronts her like, why you being messy with Jerry and Deborah and all these boys? And he says, since you're being so awful to Jerry, he grabs her hand, pins it behind her, and throws her into the water where the leeches is at. Later that night, after she gets the leeches off, at dinner, Holly and Thea realize Deborah and John Hardesty is nowhere around. Holly searches the lakefront, she searches the cabins, the shower area, but Deborah is nowhere to be found. She goes into the arts and crafts building to find Deborah's dead body over the pottery wheel, yoked up by her chain. The wheel is still going, and it's just yanking that bitch up.